Well, good morning and welcome to this month's episode of the Recovery Roundup. I'm Carrie Dury, Director of Business Development at Calvary Healing Center. Today I am joined by Scott Borgeson, who is actually our new spiritual director on campus. So thanks, Scott, for joining.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So today I just wanted to chat for a few minutes on something that I know is very near and dear to your heart and actually a big part of what you're going to be bringing to Calvary in your new role. I know you've been with us for a while, but in your new title. It's about unlearning and letting go to grow and to overcome and to move into the next chapter in one's life. So wanted to get some insight from you today about that topic specifically.
Sure.
So I'll just wanted to start by asking for, in your opinion, and more of a more clinical perspective, why is unlearning so important as it relates to the recovery community?
So for me, unlearning, which is a process of just discarding the origins of our thoughts, behaviors, attitudes that are left over from maybe someone else that we've been living for quite some time that are no longer working. My sister, when she comes over to my house, she immediately goes to the refrigerator. She opens it up. She takes a look inside and says, "What's all this? Look at the expired dates on this. Get rid of it." And so in the same way, I think unlearning is to sort of take a snapshot of what's going on inside of you and to challenge that thought or belief. Ask yourself where it came from, who's speaking here, and why should I be listening to it? And if it doesn't fit, get rid of it.
Exactly. What does it take to initiate maybe that process and start unraveling, if you will, some of these learned behaviors? Where does one start in that process?
So when I was growing up, whether this happened the way that it happened, the way I remember it happening was I was raised by my grandparents. My grandmother, who was the matriarch of the family, I ran into her bedroom one day and said, Grandma, I got an A in math." And she said, "Well, your brother got an A plus." And I remember thinking at the time, I'll just never measure up. I will never be enough. And I went downstairs, I cried like a baby, and I just resolved myself that I was going to show my family. And I set out, for years and years, up until I was 47 years old, to try to prove myself that I was good enough, worthy enough, or that I mattered. I took this script, and I remember that day specifically. Unfortunately, I didn't measure up in the way, constantly trying to please people, constantly try to get attention. I went into the acting field, where I was trying to get attention from myself. Okay, it led me into producing. I ended up in New York City, and I had some success there, but I also had a big failure there. And when it came all crashing down on me, I drifted into drugs and alcohol. And because of that choice, when I finally got sober years and years later, I had to take a look at that thought. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'll never measure up. And I had to challenge myself and ask myself, one, is it true? And how do I absolutely know that it's true? Who would I be without that thought? And finally, if it doesn't fit, get rid of it. And I found that as my spirituality increased, my reliance on God, who I originally said, "Thanks, I'm good. I'll take it from here, God." I had a pivot, a degree turn towards God. And God reminded me of who I am in Him. And because of that, I was able to take a look at unlearning some of the thoughts, some of the, driving thoughts for my beginning of my life. And so that was the 1.0 version of Scott B. This is the 2.0 version on me. So, my feeling is that we can try to challenge ourselves by asking ourselves, where did this belief come from? Where was the root start of it? Does this support my mental health today? Is this in alignment with the life that I want to live? And then if it's not, is it true? If it's not, get rid of it. And so by unlearning that thought, it helped me to grow. It helped me to seek a different kind of life for myself. It made me take an honest appraisal of where I was instead of where I am instead of where I was. And it set me on a different path towards spiritual wholeness.
Absolutely. So it sounds like for you and your experience, so much of it was contingent upon your relationship with God, higher power, spirituality, letting some of that in to kind of take over. Because as you said, you had it, you thought you had it, got it from here, but in reality, maybe you didn't, and maybe a lot of others out there struggling don't either. So really a central part of recovery for so many.
We had grief day yesterday at Calvary, and for the patients that are there, attaching something they wanted to let go of to a balloon and setting it into the universe was a reminder of the space that is opened up when we let go of an old resentment, an old anger, an old way of thinking, just something that they could attach to a physical thing and watch it go up into the universe.
Right.
Even the trees that we were standing around, they were our example of, letting go with the leaves on the ground, of letting go of the leaves in order to make room for other things to grow. So it was a really neat day, and it also reminded me of the power of just letting go of just one thing today. My sponsor, originally when I came into the rooms of AA, he challenged me and said, "What'd you learn today, Scott? And what'd you unlearn today?" And I looked at him like, "What? What are you talking about?" He said, "I want you to learn one new thing today that you didn't know yesterday about recovery, and I want you to let go of one thing that you're holding on to."
Wow.
And for 7 days or for 14 days, whatever it was originally, he challenged me on that. And that really helped me. And when I got this job, the very first topic that I wanted to talk about was unlearning, because of the history that I've had with the power of letting go of something that's not working for you anymore.
Right. Interesting, given the current state of affairs here, not only in our state, but nationwide, with so many people facing new challenges every single day, trying to have a sense of control over things, but in reality, maybe releasing some of that control, that unlearning, that ability to change behavior despite every obstacle maybe that's thrown at you, really is key. So, and I know you're the ultimate example of that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we were talking about it in spiritual formation last night, this thing called control and what we have control over. And, in step 3, it shows to me that if I draw close to my higher power and perform his work well, he takes care of me. He provides everything that I need.
Exactly.
So, in showing that and living that, and also showing it to the patients, it's only my head, my ego that wants to complicate it, get in the middle of it, fix it, solve it, rationalize it, minimize it, maximize, whatever it is that it wants to do. But at the end of the day, my job each day is just draw close to God, perform his work well, and let him drive the bus. It works out better that way for me.
I would agree. Well, and that's actually a nice little segue to maybe a final thought, since I know later this month you'll be hosting a virtual CEU event here with us. Okay. And I know you're going to talk a lot more about that and what that looks like, and things that have not only worked for you, but like you've spoken in certain groups and just over the course of so many years, what spirituality as relates to recovery. And I mean, that's the most basic sense of it. But I know you're going to take a deeper dive into that and explore that a little bit further. So that's actually coming up in a few more weeks. So I know we'll all look forward to that too.
Looking forward to it too. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's all I had for today. And thanks again, Scott, for joining. We'll
Pleasure.
See you soon. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of the Recovery Roundup.